Welcome back. So here's one of those days, just brought the 62 over and trekking back into the woods. Have a little bit of mess that we made before that we may try to clean up, and also going to work on getting some more trees down. So head back here, almost back to the 1000, and get some area cleaned up. So here, been working on getting some of these trees cut down. So we have this, essentially it's a giant slingshot that you use to shoot like a beanbag and a string through to be able to get tied into a log or a tree to be able to pull it down. Here we're just trying to get a limb cleaned off of it. So I had some difficulty in that. So the idea was to use a rope saw to kind of cut that limb off. It ended up being a little bit bigger than we expected, so ended up kind of having chaos and got it stuck and everything, so kind of became a mess. Actually, Schmitter's 100 acre woods. So out here at the 100 acres today, doing a little bit of cleanup. So instead of here at the home site working on stuff there, I'm actually back in the woods. So if you're kind of familiar, we do long range activities. So out to 1,000 yards. So one of the issues we have out to about 500, we have it nice and open. Past there, everything, you have line of sight, but then trajectory and everything have some issues there. So we're getting some trees cleaned up. So I don't think I videoed it, but we cut some trees down, just let them fall. So today, going back to 62, getting those cleaned up. So getting stuff pulled out and seeing what's worth firewood and anything that's just gonna go in a hole back there. So there's a pretty good ravine right next to 1,000, so any tops and anything will go down there and get it opened up. So I have a like a pocket, they call it a pocket saw. So basically you can loop it over and then kind of go back and forth and cut. We had one limb that's kind of hanging over, and we tried to do that, and we got a rope and everything through, and we've kind of been working it, and one of the knots came undone. So getting some stuff here. So we have the pole saw, and hopefully with that and the extensions, get that up in the bucket, can kind of cut that and get that free, get that out of there. So gonna do that, but then just hook the other trees, pull them out. And then there's one tree that has scars on the side of it that is obviously in the way, but it's also in a spot where we want to eventually create the roads. Right now we kind of go through a bottom, we want to stay on the tops. So basically we're going to dig that tree out, and eventually we'll be able to then start eating some of that dirt, take a dirt from an adjacent hill, kind of put it in the bottom and kind of create, so it's from the 7 to the 8. The 7 just kind of dead ends right now. We want to eventually make a road that goes on that crest instead of having to kind of come around to the bottom. So just make more straightforward path, but then also that bottom sometimes gets wet. So it'd just be nice to stay on the tops and be able to do that. So gonna look at that today as well, and hopefully get it dug out and get it laid down. And I can't remember if it's an oak or a maple, but it'll be some pretty wood. It's fair size, so it'll definitely be something we can saw up and be good, some good logs there. So that's kind of the plan today. We'll see what all we get done. It's a beautiful day, and can't complain just being outside. So follow along as we work on getting some of this stuff cleaned up out in the back 40. So here's another look of kind of using that slingshot. I need to get a picture of it, but you can see there on the left hand side, got that through. And basically we're just trying to get this unstuck now. So I kind of fast forwarded. There was a lot of like trying to get that pulled out. You can see that limb now is gone. That's what I'm pulling out. It was kind of a long process of trying to get that unstuck, and there, that last shot that we did to get the beanbag through was basically to lift the saw up out of its groove that we'd started. Anyway, so once we got that unstuck, we basically, here at 1,000, there's a pretty big hole to the left. Kind of hard to tell, but it's pretty decent size. So anything that was pretty small, or the limbs that wasn't worth firewood, just pushed in there and let it let it go down into that ravine. And then we have several trees that we dropped before. Go ahead and get them cleaned up. So just get hooked to those. This one, we try to pull this entire tree out, and I get going for a little bit, but then I start going uphill and I just lose traction, so end up losing that there. So I thought maybe it was just stuck and I could give it a pull. So he goes and just cuts the top off, and we pull this section out, and it can be it'll be good firewood. So here, just because it's so long and we don't really have a spot for it, he goes ahead and cuts a chunk off the top here. And I'll pull it separately. Just because we don't have a lot of room back here at the 1000, just kind of have to work with it a little bit with the space that we have, just so we can kind of get it out of the way, but then leave it in a location that we can come back with the log trailer and get these pulled all the way out. And that's one thing, like, we have, since we're so far back right now, this is essentially the back corner of what we own here. It will be you know, a long way to skid a log all the way out, so that's why one of the reasons is circumstances like this, we had the log trailer and have that built. And it's a little bit nicer than a log arch from the standpoint of you can put multiple logs on, so you can probably put 2, maybe 3 on there of something like this. Now you do have to have, you know, another machine or something, whereas the log arch is more self-supported. But for most circumstances, we always have at least another machine out and don't just have the otter. We always travel with at least something else or have something there that can pick up at least the end of the log, and then if we needed to use the winch to pull it on, we can. So going all the way back, get the top of this tree pulled out. So I think most of this will be just go in the green hole. There is at least a section that is pretty good, so I'll be able to set it over with those other logs and kind of create a pile. We found that those wedges, these are just like poly plastic wedges, find that they're very helpful. In a lot of circumstances, you know, you have where a log isn't in a great location, so this stops it from you know, pinching the saw, and you can easily get that driven in there to open that up. You can kind of see how far down that is. It goes a lot further. That's just how far I was able to reach. So another piece of firewood here, just set it over. And then get this last little bit pulled up so we can limit and decide if there's any firewood for the unit. So once we get that one done, come to the next one and work on getting it pulled up. So all of these I have obviously sped up. That is one thing. So the hydraulics on this are fairly strong. You know, I'm able to pick up these decent sized pieces of wood, but that is one disadvantage that like the 62 has compared to a Mini. It has decent hydraulic flow and everything when you're comparing it to like another subcompact tractor. But the difference is like whenever you're doing like a Mini or something, its only function is to run hydraulics. So whenever you know, you're operating this, it has decent power, but it's just much slower. So you've seen lots of these now, so just speeding up this process of getting this one cleaned up. Once we get all this cleaned up, let's see, just a quick time lapse of that. Go through, and the next thing will be kind of just pushing a path through. So I have like one little top left there, but then basically we want to be able to mow this. Just this is our old path, and I haven't been able to get through here. So I just take and put the grapple down and just skim the bottom, so if there's any limbs or anything down, I can go ahead and collect those, and that picks up a little bit of that grass and just kind of pushes that over. So kind of get this opened up a little bit so that the little tractor will go through with the bush hog, and just be able to maintain that. It's a spot that we have open, so we want to be able to clean it. Then that's also going to be the line of sight for the 1000. That's why we did that initial path there. So I moved over here to the 800. So here we kind of have this ridge. So the 700 is in front of me here. So the direction the camera is facing, the 800 is behind me. And we have this tree that has scars along the side of it. So bullets have obviously been grazing it. So it's definitely in the way. And we want the path to go kind of directly through this tree anyway, so this is one that we've been waiting on doing, and it wasn't too bad to get down. You can see there, I've done a lot of time lapse here, obviously, of getting that dug out. Because it was in a little bit of a hole, it wasn't too bad. And there's a big hole down and to the right, to where any like the stump and everything will just push down into there, and then we'll drag the good part of this tree out and then just limit into that hole, and use it as fill. So there's a pretty good hill to the left, kind of right there, so it's the dirt that we're going to use to fill in that hole. And our path ends for the 700 right on the other side of that ridge. So yeah, whenever we kind of work on it here, you can kind of get a better idea, but that's one thing we've been wanting to do for a while and we've talked about, and just go ahead and start working on that right now to kind of get it started, and then it'll be one of those projects that we'll kind of continue to work on as we have time and have different pieces of equipment here. First step was using the 62, obviously, get that broken up. And then there's a lot of really big pieces of sandstone that I dug out of here. So that's one thing, like the little tractor, you can eventually get it dug out, but it just takes a lot longer to get some of those bigger pieces dug out. So with the 6.2, you're able to just get those either dug out completely or just broken up.
The angle is that I'm going to have to.
Has one little spot that he needs to trim to get that completely unattached.
What?
And he's just saying there, so it's a really nice piece of maple that we have here, and it's just a very white, clean. Some of them you see don't end up having that nice of a look, I guess you could say. So this one, we're able to get just pulled out, and then we'll cut it into sections that will fit on the log trailer and get it out. So here, I'm not able to maneuver this very well, so just work on getting a little bit of dirt off and just trying to get it rolled so that it will fall down into the hole. So get a little bit of that cleaned up just to reduce the weight more than anything. So I think that was basically, since I need to get down in that hole that the tree's across, go ahead and he's going to cut a section of that out, and I'll get it pulled up and then be able to roll the stump kind of into that. So there, another instance, it's in a pretty good hole here where it's going to fall, so it's obviously got tension on it to where whenever he cuts it's going to want to pinch. So once you have a little bit of a cut going, you can go ahead and drive that wedge in. And there he has issues with the saw, kind of getting clogged up with sawdust and not wanting to continue. And sometimes we have 3 different sizes of wedge, so you can kind of then continue to step up in size to kind of get that opened up a little bit more. So where he's standing is kind of where the road's going to end up being. We're going to eat a little bit of that hill there and put it down into that hole and kind of build it on that so that you have some solid base to put the road on and not have it all on fill, just because over time it will definitely start to fall in, whereas if you have that solid it will be okay. Have the choker hooked up, so I'm just gonna have it so that the tree can't fall too far down. Which, once it falls, it's not going too far, so able to then hoist this section out. Because it's at a pretty good hill, end up having to kind of pull it with the backhoe a couple times before you can just drive. Because I need to kind of lift it up over that ridge where the stump was, which it doesn't do a whole lot of. Kind of have to just plow through some of that loose dirt, but then once you get kind of up to that point, you can then just kind of skid it over and just kind of leaving it here for now, and then we'll come back for it. So here, just starting to kind of get the road established again, kind of get the grade started a little bit, and then also I need to be able to get to that stump. So kind of just take a little bit of this dirt. Right now it's pretty dry, so it's kind of hard to keep a whole lot of that dirt in the bucket to move it around. You can kind of push it forward, but moving it left and right doesn't work very well. But we have that little bit of a hill on the right hand side as well where that cherry tree is, and I'll kind of work on getting that out as well. But you can kind of see now how far down that is. You can see our original road now that we have is on the right hand side, kind of goes through and then goes back up. So today we just kind of get this started, get this hole filled, and get some of this ridge gone, just because I encountered some pretty big pieces of sandstone that the little B2150 just isn't gonna like getting out. So go ahead and just take some of this dirt and get it moved over. So there's a pretty good hole on the left hand side, so just trying to kind of get it moved over there, but then most of it I'll just push into that ravine to start kind of getting that filled in. and then have this cherry tree that kind of get pushed over, and it gets hung up in another tree, and thinking I'd be able to just pull it out, but you can see here it doesn't end up wanting to come, so you can see I have a pretty good pull on it, and it's just wedged in there. So I end up just leaving it for the time being, and we'll go back and pull it out the other direction once we have this road complete. So once we have this road, we're able to kind of rotate that out, but for now it's just going to kind of stay there, and then we'll work on getting more of this pulled out. So that's kind of trying to get a road down to the next section so we can pull another piece out, and then eventually get to that top so that we can pull or limit out.
Got this tree out here, so been pulling out sections. Nice maple, have a nice 20-foot section back there. Have this cherry that's unattached, just need to get it pulled out. And then probably with a little tractor start cutting this bank, just because you can kind of work little bits. With that, you can move lots of dirt, but your pitch with the back tire is a lot more finicky with the 6 foot, whereas with the 4 foot of the little tractor, it's a whole lot easier to keep your grade and eat little bits and kind of get through here. So I already have a path that kind of starts to come down that way about where he's standing, so we can kind of merge into that. So that'll then abandon this path over here. This one will just be much more open. That big tree there will eventually take out, but we'll be able to just cut it at the base instead of having to dig it out, because we won't need to go through it. We'll go to the left of it, and that will just be for opening up our line of sight.
Here we're working on just kind of moving a little bit more of that down and kind of start getting into that ridge. So there's a couple of logs and stuff in there, so I just want to kind of get those disrupted before having the 62 or having the little tractor. So I think that's about it for today. We have this tree here that we work on pulling out, and it's also stuck, kind of similar to the cherry tree, where we give it a pretty good pull and even try to pull it with the tractor and end up breaking one of the chain links. So this is one we have to come back another day and kind of work on. So thank you for watching. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and continue in the next couple videos to see this get cleaned up.